Welcome everybody to this month's community update. It's March 2024 and really happy to have you here, and let's start right into it. As we do every month, we start with a little what is Onino, and this month I would like to give you an overview about what Onino is exactly. So our goal is to make blockchain technology accessible and user-friendly, and for this, we have a couple of things. You see a slogan here down there or the description: deploy your blockchain solutions in minutes, not months. Easily ideate, develop, deploy, and integrate enterprise-grade blockchain solutions with the modular Onino platform. And for this time, I've brought you a little graphic overview. I'm not a designer, but I think it should be understandable how everything works together. And we have a couple of aspects. We have on one hand, at the bottom, you see our company, Onino GmbH, which is kind of limited here in Germany. And then you have on the left side, Onino blockchain services, then the Onino blockchain, the Onino cloud platform, and the Onino launchpad. And I think as we have so many services, as it's an ecosystem, sometimes it gets lost as to how it works together and what is what. And I'd like to give you a little overview. And I think technologically speaking, the most important thing or most interesting thing is the Onino blockchain. And the Onino blockchain, as you see, most arrows point to it, profit from most of the other things. For example, with Onino projects, with the Onino blockchain services, we bring on one hand projects and traffic to the Onino chain and revenue to the Onino company. Then you have the Onino cloud platform, which makes blockchain development much easier. This as well brings projects and traffic onto the Onino blockchain, as does the Onino Launchpad, which also starts companies and projects into the Web3 world, and it also brings projects and traffic onto the Onino blockchain. And for the Launchpad, we take success fees, for example, for the projects, and for the Onino Cloud Platform, it's SaaS revenues. And there you see this cool synergy of how everything works together. So essentially, we have those main aspects. The Onino blockchain is the main layer that's at the bottom of everything. And on top of it, we've built the Onino Cloud Platform to make blockchain development easy. We've built the Onino Launchpad to bring in projects into the Web3 world of the Onino blockchain, and the Onino blockchain services, where we cooperate with companies and projects to build projects for them onto the Onino blockchain. And the Onino GmbH is connected to all of this as a legal framework. So we hope that this little visual perception will help you to understand a little more what it is, and happy for feedback. As every month, also, we do a community shout out. And this month it's I am Rossi and Lanzo Seth. I hope that's correct. Twitter names are always complicated. Thank you very much for being active. Thank you very much for posting about Onino, for spreading the word. It's always great. We're watching that every day. Yeah, thank you for being such an active part of the community. As every month, we have a couple of topics. The first we'll talk about will be the Onino Cloud Platform update. Then we'll go into the blockchain update. We'll talk about the Ambassadors Program, where we have interesting updates. And we will talk about events. And then at the end, there will be questions. And I would say let's jump right into the Cloud Platform update. And I think Kai will take over.
Yeah, thank you very much, Alex. So as always, in every community update, we're going to give you a little update around the cloud platform, since we got a lot of questions regarding this one. This month a bit more extensive. So as always, first let's just have a look at what has happened in the last 4 weeks since the last community update and what is currently our work in progress. So as you might have already seen on our blog, we have published an updated version of the Onino AI assistants. These are now much smarter, you could say. And additionally, you can now also have multiple chats with the AI assistant. You can store and rename the old chats that you had, and you can also access them again later. So in case you're working with different chats, want to start from scratch, you can now do so. So if you haven't already, please just check them out at platform.onino.io so you can see the latest AI assistants. Then currently, since that has been released, we're now working on 2 major features, which take a while for development. So on the one hand, we are building a cloud development environment, how we call it. So with that, you as a user will have a kind of a full-fledged code editor, and it also has support for multiple files and folder structures in the Onino Cloud Platform, as for like every developer is basically used to from, for example, Visual Studio Code or any other development environment. And with that, we want to enable people, so to say, to make their whole full smart contract development process directly in the Onino cloud platform without having to jump between different tools all the time. And then in addition, we are also working on the Onino smart contract API. And this is one of my favorite features, and it will allow every developer out there to very easily integrate smart contract functionality. So for example, deploying smart contracts, also reading from them or writing to them with a super easy to use REST API. So quick example for the non-developers, you can imagine an API like a service, like a digital information hotline, that your software can just call, can just ring and ask for information or tell it to do a certain thing. So in that context, basically your software application, whatever it is, could just ring our API and say, hey, dear Onino API, can you just please give me some information from that smart contract, or can you please write XYZ into that smart contract? So why do we want to offer that? So reason is quite clear. So in my opinion, personal opinion, with an easy to use API, you can integrate blockchain technology virtually everywhere, right? Like in every IT system, and even in legacy code bases, for example, of traditional companies that may a lot of times be written in programming languages that normally cannot work directly with smart contracts. So yeah, in my personal opinion, that's quite a huge factor and that contributes to broader blockchain adoption, especially in the context of making the bridge, so to say, between Web 2 and Web 3. Yeah, so that is what has been happening in the last 4 weeks and what we're currently working on. Next, if you could just jump to the next slide. There also has been a question on what the future outlook is for the new cloud platform. So yeah, I thought I'm just going to give that or answer that question directly here in the presentation, because you can visually undermine it a bit better. So now let's also just have a quick look at what is planned for the nearer future of the new cloud platform. So yeah, what comes next after the features that I've just presented to you are done, basically. So on the one hand, we're planning to fully implement something we like to call the Onino Smart Contract Analytics, working title for now. You can think of it a bit like a Google Analytics for smart contract that really easily allows you to get really detailed insights on how and when and what is going on in your smart contracts, how they are used. So just a quick example, say you have your blockchain project, you have a staking pool smart contract, for example, and then you could, for example, easily correlate the start of certain marketing measures that you made, for example, as a project owner, and see how that affected the usage of your smart contract, how many deposits there were, for example. Yeah, so, and we heard a lot of times actually in user interviews that this is feature that is quite helpful and it is desperately missing right now. And what I also like about it is that it will also, in my opinion, expand the potential user base of the Onino Cloud Platform a lot, because I think this, combined with the Onino Smart Contract API, is something that also provides a lot of value also for users who already have their up and running smart contracts that have not been deployed with the Onino Cloud Platform. And yeah, also opens up a new whole target base for the Onino Cloud Platform. And then on the other hand, if you could just switch over to the next slide, Alex. Thanks a lot. What we're also planning after that is, yeah, so to say, a refactoring of the user flows on the Onino platform. So just a quick recap, as some of you might know so far, the user flow is structured into a, so to say, linear process, right? You could just create a project, and then in the cloud platform, this project goes through different phases, namely ideation, development, deployment, and the integration phase. And yeah, we thought that with all the new features that I just presented that are coming up in the next month, we want to go away a bit from these linear phases and rather build on or structure the Onino Cloud Platform into different features, especially since these new features are also built for people who already have their up and running smart contracts. So yeah, I've just made a little visual here to make it a bit more, yeah, graspable for you guys. So for example, I could just jump right in, use the Onino Cloud development environment, could just code my smart contracts there, powered by the AI assistant as well, and also use the templates, for example, and code based on them. Maybe I have developed my code already and I would want to just straight jump into the deployment engine to save myself the hassles of compiling Solidity code. Or maybe I also have my smart contracts and then I don't need this whole ideation, development, deployment phase, so to say. And I just want to jump right in and analyze the usage of my smart contracts, or I just want to easily interact with them via an API. So these are like all different features, and a lot of users as we also found out in user interviews, may and potentially only use the one or the other feature. So this is why we just want to break up this linear structure and allow users to easily access any feature directly, be it whether they start from scratch or whether they already have a bit, or whether they already have their up and running smart contracts. So yeah, with that, we just want to make the platform a lot more flexible, so to say. And also, I think this will allow us to tackle a way bigger target group for the platform, and then thereby also onboard a lot more users to Onino in general. And a quick sneak peek, which I haven't put on the slide, we have actually worked with a professional designer. So this is why soon, may take some time, as this is like a larger milestone. But yeah, soon we will integrate these designs into Onino Cloud Platform, and you will be able to enjoy an even better updated look and feel on the Cloud Platform. Yeah, then you can just please jump to the next slide, Alex. There were also a lot of questions actually in our question form this month regarding the, so to say, inner workings of our AI assistants. Like a lot of people asked what the AI architecture is based on, how the models are trained, what future plans we have with it, which pre-trained models we have used, where we host it, how we fine-tune it. So yeah, there were actually a lot of interest in the AI models on the Onino Cloud Platform. So this is why I just thought to put this in the presentation, so I can have a little visual help here to show you what's going on. And yeah, just want to give a quick, more detailed insight into how the AI assistants work. So first of all, important to know is that Onino AI assistants, it's not just like these are like a single AI instance or something that you can just easily query or something, but it's like rather an entire architecture, like an entire system that consists in itself of various components. So as you see on the logo on the left here, we use a tool called LangChain. It's a very amazing tool. If you're a developer, please check it out. It's the state-of-the-art framework right now for LLM development, so the development and integration of large language models. LangChain is very flexible, very cool toolkit that allows us to easily connect and, so to say, glue together various components that are related to AI with each other. And you can think of it, it's kind of like a pipeline, right? So I can just throw in the user's input, and then I can attach my different modules, the different functionalities in this pipeline until in the end, the pipeline spits out the answer that the user then sees in the end. So yeah, obviously the first thing in this pipeline is always the user input, which is then further processed. And then in the core, so to say, as the underlying large language model, we currently have a GPT-4 Turbo 1106 model. So like the latest premium GPT-4 model. But this is hosted not directly at OpenAI, but it's hosted in a separate Azure OpenAI instance in Europe. Why are we doing that? Simple reason, just to ensure data privacy, to ensure GDPR compliance, and just to make sure that no data flows into the USA, and especially that no data is used for model retraining, because this is, so to say, impossible in a privately hosted cloud instance. And then next to that, the functionality of this underlying core model, so to say, in our pipeline is then significantly adapted again. So on the one hand, we have, you could say, carried out extensive prompt engineering to give the model a very different context with sophisticated system prompts. And then on the other hand, our model can also additionally access a curated knowledge base about, for example, Onino or smart contract development in general, smart contract security best practices, or also regarding blockchain applications and use cases. Or in the case of the integration assistant, we can also access a lot of resources regarding REST API integration into legacy code bases. This additional knowledge that we curated, this base model can then access that, so to say, in this pipeline via a vectorized database, which is currently hosted on Pinecone. And it can, so to say, this is just like additional knowledge you can, so to say, provide the model with, and you can then use this knowledge while answering your question. And the cool thing about the setup that I personally like a lot is that it's actually highly modular. So like this is the cool thing in this pipeline, and we have the different components and can easily switch to one for the other. So for example, if new research comes up and there are new developments made in the field of LLM, like large language models, we can then easily replace, if you want to, or update the underlying model without having to change the rest of the setup. So for example, a potential new model that comes up can easily continue to access our own resources that we, with a lot of effort, picked and crafted and curated, and be seamlessly replaced basically in a matter of minutes. And the cool thing about this is, contrary to if you do like, so to say, retraining on the model level, is that you can, as I said, easily replace the underlying models if there are any improvements in LLMs in general. And outcome of that is that this, in my opinion, gives us a very flexible and also a future-proof AI architecture for the Onino Cloud Platform. And if you have any more questions regarding the AI architecture, just feel free to hit me up via DM or in the chat. I'm always happy to nerd around with or have nerd talk about AI models. And if you also have any cool new AI features, pipeline features you want to share with us, please feel free to hit me up. Always open for talks on AI. All right, and that was the Onino Cloud Platform. If there's any more questions, in case I didn't answer all of the questions around the AI by now, just drop them in the chat and I will answer them later in the further question section.
Right, perfect. I will take over from here, and we will be going over the quick blockchain update. Unfortunately, it's not as visual as the updates regarding the cloud platform because it's on a protocol level, and mostly the visual things there are stats and also the code itself. But let me give you more details on the current things we're working on in the background and the overall stand of the testnet. So in the last few days, we've performed active stress tests on the current node infrastructure that is running on the testnet. These had a few different reasons, and one of the main reasons is for us to check the efficiency of the lighter node client configurations to see which is the minimal viable configuration needed for that we will allow public nodes to run on. Other tests also includes such as spamming in general and also double spending attacks and tests regards that and the level of liveness our protocol can fulfill. And it looks good. We've actually managed to get quite a few learnings out of it, which are mostly on the efficiency level. That ultimately leads to a big to-do for the team, which is on working on some efficiency improvements. And that means that we will be working on some changes to the node client software that are mainly targeted on the one hand for modularity and restructuring some parts of the code base to ultimately lead to a more efficient node client software, which is one necessity for us for the continuation of the auditing process and also for the preparation of onboarding public validators, because we will need to release the node client in a how it will be after we've implemented the changes, and that will then be released to GitHub. So we don't want to prematurely release it without having implemented those efficiency changes. But it's an exciting thing you can look forward to, as we will then allow onboarding of validators and also release much more detailed information on the exact specs you need after we've performed the last changes and tested it again. So all people that are looking forward to run a node itself will exactly know the specs for either running it on your local hard drive or local machine or in a cloud environment such as AWS or wherever you want to deploy your node, to know what are the actual costs and what is needed from a hardware standpoint of view. Then another big topic right now is the preparation of the release of a more detailed description in regards to token economy and the mechanism design behind the Oni token and the general workings of our protocol in terms of the economical standpoint. As many of you know, the native utility token of a blockchain network is primarily for two things. On the one hand, securing the network through the stake that is brought up as a security for the network, and the other one is just the general transaction fee structure, which gets complicated quite quickly when you take a step back and from a base layer, so a monolithic architecture, which is just a native layer one, like you could example say Ethereum is a monolithic architecture because it combines everything that is needed for a blockchain. You have the data, you have the consensus, and all the transactions all running in one client. But when you take a step back and look at it with individual subchains running on top, this complicates things a lot. And these are things we will be going into much more detail with the release of the token economy and mechanism design and the paper on that, and especially also cover the game theory that is involved, because there's always game theory involved if you want to align different interests of multiple actors, of which an actor can be a validator, an operator of a DApp, or a user. And these will all be things that you can have a detailed read once we release that paper. Another thing is currently is to prepare the detailed documentation to make it ready for public release on all the subchains. We are actively working on the subchain implementation. Some of the components are already running on the testnet, and we want to give you access to much more detailed documentation on that to read through it and also see how we will facilitate the whole framework of Onino subchains running on top of the Onino main chain. Yes, and we can go on to the next slide because there's a little thing that we have released and implemented into our block explorer is that you can now query live stats from the current running testnet. These will be, I believe it's always updated every 5 seconds, and you can see the active current load of the network, like the current transactions that are running through it, the average gas that is used, but be aware the gas is always calculated in GUI at the, so it's not calculated in Oni token, and just all other natural stats like block time for the last transactions and the transactions in the last 1,000 blocks. It's an interesting page, but be aware, as this is a test net, there's not too much of incentive for users to send many transactions at the current point in time, and it's always the live stats that are shown in this metrics page. But be free to check it out, and also feel free to leave questions and feedback directly in the Telegram if there are any stats or anything you want to see in terms of the performance of the overall network. Yes, and then on the next slide, there's some information, and we thought that we would just answer many questions with one slide. So one of the latest big things is that Bitmart accepted the Oni token to be listed on their exchange. And the trading will actually open up on this Wednesday at 3 p.m. UTC, while the deposit should be already open by now. And this is like a major big step in the general growth of our brand. And there are 2 main questions that have been asked associated to the announcement from Bitmart. And these are, on the one hand, will the exchange support the migration of the token itself to the mainnet? And that can be answered with a 100% yes. It will be, and they will try to make it as seamless as possible. But of course, there is a lot of processes involved on their end, and there's not anything we can control there, but that's at least the things that should be guaranteed by Bitmart. And also one of the main things is that the exchange will actively integrate the Onino mainnet into their backend infrastructure and allow deposits and withdrawals directly from the Onino mainnet when we migrate over to the mainnet, which allows a great level of accessibility for the mainnet itself, and is just another entry point into the ecosystem in the future.
All right, and this brings us to the ambassador program. And we are happy today to announce that we have officially started the ambassador program. We've announced it a while ago. And I would like to present the first 4 ambassadors for the month of March. And some of them might be listening to this call already. So let's jump right into it without further ado. We're happy to announce that Marco Johanning, Malepo, Crypto Phoenix, and Tom Nifty will be joining Onino as the ambassador force for this month. Really happy to have you, and really happy to also have a couple of you in the call, I think. If any one of you is listening and would like to jump on for a little word, please just raise your hand, and happy to have a little call. So I see Tom wants to speak, and you're free to speak now if you want to.
Hello, guys. GM. Can you hear me well?
Hi, Tom. I can hear you perfectly.
Perfect. Pleasure to be here. Pleasure to meet you guys and the entire Onino community. Awesome to be here. Yeah, I'm Tom Nifty. I'm from Poland, and you can find me on Twitter, on YouTube. I'm a content creator and in crypto investor since 2018, basically. And why did I join Onino? I mean, I'm coming from the corporate world. So the last 10 years I was working I'm actually still working. I'm in the transition to full-time crypto mode in 2 months. And this was like the major global pharmaceutical corporation. And I see how much demand and use cases there are. And this company is already exploring the blockchain technology to be implemented in their business model. So, yeah, I was studying the Onino white paper, and I thought, wow, this is amazing, because what Onino is doing, solving so many problems, like bringing the security from the privacy perspective, and also simplifying the adoption of the blockchain technology for businesses, for institutional clients, and many, many more. So I think that's a perfect fit for me. I've fallen in love with the project, and I'm happy to raise awareness and create content on it.
Thank you very much, Tom, for the little intro, and thank you very much for being part of the community now. Really happy to have you and all the others as well. I think not everyone was able to join the call. Some are sick, some have to take care of the children, which is totally understandable. That definitely goes first. So yeah, but thank you very much. Really happy to have all of you here, and really looking forward to see what content is going to be created, because we have specifically chosen the 4 of you because we like your style of content, each of you in their individual style, and are really looking forward to see how you can spread the word of Onino in your typical style. So really looking forward to that, and to the cooperation as well.
Awesome. Happy to be here.
Thank you. All right. And with that, let's jump into the events. And the next months are going to be interesting as well. So we're going to talk about, or we're going to visit the SXSW from the 8th of the 12th and to the 12th of March. So we are flying there this Thursday, and really look forward to that. I'm going to stay in the US some days for the fair, and then a couple of more days just to visit the US a little bit, to spread the word about Onino on another continent. So that's going to be pretty cool. And Texas is going to be nice because the weather is much more like spring, or even almost summer, than here in Germany. So we're looking forward to that, and living the American lifestyle a little bit. Maybe trying Apple Vision Pro, driving Teslas, all the things, you know. No, but it's going to be a nice time. And of course, visiting the trade fair, spreading the word about Onino, and seeing what partnerships and connections and contacts we can get there. Then 21st to 22nd of March, so not long after we're back from the US, is going to be the Start Summit in Switzerland, in St. Gallen. And this is cool as well. Yeah, because think about it, missed a couple of information for Austin. So yeah, gonna do that and then talk about St. Gallen. So for the SXSW in Austin and Start Summit, for both of them, we have been chosen to go there. And for Austin, it's pretty cool because the BWI, the Baden-Württemberg International, they have chosen a couple of startups. I think it was 4 or 5 from Baden-Württemberg and just a handful from whole Germany to be able to bring them to the US to represent Germany and represent German startups. So Onino is one of just a few startups from whole Germany that has been chosen to go there to represent Germany. And there will be a German delegation. We are part of this German delegation. And it's pretty interesting. And I think it's pretty cool to see that we have been chosen there. Then for Start Summit, we have been chosen as well. Start Summit is a summit that has been organized wholly by students, and we know many of them that have organized it. So we have contacts there, but still there was an application phase, and this was also the event that I was last month in Stuttgart, the Road to Start Summit. And now we have a ticket there, we have a booth there, and that's going to be really great because there is also a contest that we can take part of. So there's going to be many interesting things in St. Gallen. And then in April already, but still very interesting to talk about it, is going to be the Paris Blockchain Week. And we'll be there as well. And for this, we have a little surprise announcement, because we are not going to be just taking part of the Onino Blockchain Week, of the Paris Blockchain Week. It's not called Onino Blockchain Week yet, but we're sponsoring it. So if you visit parisblockchainweek.com/sponsors, you will see Onino. Of course, we're not the main or the only sponsor. There are bigger fish in the sea, of course, but really happy to be sponsoring the Paris Blockchain Week. This is a big milestone for us, and it's in Paris, so it's kind of in my home country, and really looking forward to being there. Or not home country, I mean, I'm half German, half French, but that's something else. But yeah, it's going to be really cool to be sponsoring this event. We will have a stand there. We will be visitors with access to everything, so including investors' access, and as a sponsor as well. So that's going to be very interesting, and really looking forward to sponsoring our first event and seeing how that's going to roll out. And it's going to be in the Louvre, which, if you know Paris, you know France, is quite huge as well. So Paris Blockchain Week in April, if you're there or at any of the other events, hit us up, come visit us. We'd be very happy to see you. And with that, we are at the end of the presentation part, and we'll jump right into the questions.
Yes, and always we kind of dissect the questions into different categories. Let's go over the first 3 questions that are directly related to the technology and mostly to the protocol itself. The first one is quite a long one. I'll just read it out for everyone that will be listening later in the recording. It does not have the visual representation, and then give you the answer. The question is, there is a lot of information available in your documentation, blogs, white paper, and so on the utility of the project, but I can't find any technical info related to the consensus or other algorithms implemented by the project. For example, any scientific paper on the proof of adaptive coverage consensus you based your work on, or is it a proprietary implementation? If so, who and are you going to publish it? Is there any technical white paper, and how actually is the DAG implemented, especially emphasizing the ordering of the DAG? Is it a layer 0 or layer 1 or both? And a few other questions. So the main point there is that there is a lack of technical documentation. And this actually was part of many conversations we had recently in the team. And in the past, we've been quite protective about the information we share online because, as Alex mentioned previously, we are still in the relative grand scheme of things, a smaller fish in the whole pond. And we were always protective of what we share, how we build it, and how fast others could copy potential things we do. But we are actually aware that the availability of the technical documentation on concepts and the actual implementations and the algorithms itself, especially when it comes to the context of DAG-based systems, where the ordering most of the time and also the efficiency against attacks is most interesting, that all of this is lacking currently. So we put a lot of focus on this recently, and also put a lot of focus on this, what we can share. Eventually, especially when we start onboarding validators, the whole code base will be visible to our public GitHub. And we also want to put out more information out there publicly, which is one thing that we mentioned earlier, that there is one thing we're working on is the detailed documentation on the whole concept behind the subchains, and also more detailed documentation on the whole algorithms we've implemented and the basis of our consensus technology, because that not only builds a better understanding publicly, but also builds a lot more trust in the protocol itself. So we are aware that there's a lack, and we want to assure you that we're working on it, and we are looking forward to sharing much more information on that side. Then the next question is, for early stage projects like this one, it is often beneficial to compare to other better known ones like Ethereum, for example, which are better known publicly and more matured compared to Onino. And the main question is there a project or a company out there that Onino compares itself to? And a follow-up question is if the Dusk or previously Dusk network is a good comparison, and how Onino differentiates it from Dusk network. So specifically speaking about Dusk, I would not see them as a direct competitor, as Dusk is mainly directly focused on the financial sectors and the tokenization. But one thing they do have, and which is a really interesting case, is the confidential smart contracts. So a framework to allow, you could say, private smart contracts, which is very similar to what we want to achieve with the whole privacy layer we're implementing in our protocol, and more detailed the whole feature set of allowing private subchains in the future. And we do not like comparisons to other projects, but if you really want to compare Onino from a utility point of view, it would most likely be closest to what Avalanche is building with their whole idea of allowing people to deploy custom subnets. But there's a key technical difference there, which is these subnets for Avalanche are mainly subsets of different nodes. So one could bring up the case that they are not whole sovereign layer ones. And the main differentiating factor in the future that we see for Onino is the allowance of private subchains validated by our public decentralized main chain infrastructure, which is a transformative technology in general for blockchain, and especially interesting when it comes to enterprise use cases. But of course, this is something that is not only highly complicated from a technological standpoint of view, but also from an academical standpoint, and is directly at the state of the art of the research. So this one takes a lot of time to facilitate in general. And the last question is, can you explain the different nodes and their requirements? Of course, there are 4 different types of nodes. The most interesting ones will be the validator nodes. So that is essentially a node that can issue new transactions and also confirm those transactions or blocks with other validators in the network. They are also responsible for propagating individual transactions to other peers in the network, and they can then receive or submit transactions to other validators for validation in general. And other than validator nodes, there are also read nodes, RPC nodes, and archive nodes. Archive nodes, you can put it simply, these are just, you could say they are like an API node, but they store just the full archive of the network. So in more traditional terms, this could be like a backup of the whole system, if you want to say so. If there's any information lost, it can be basically synced with the information on the archive nodes. Then there are RPC or API nodes, and their functionality is similar to the read nodes, which read nodes are the lightest client you can run, but it mainly acts as a public gateway to the blockchain network. So if you ever used MetaMask, for example, you have to put an RPC URL, which basically is an access point to the blockchain network. And this is facilitated through hosting an RPC or API node. Then at the last, there are read nodes, which are really light node clients. And they are usually not run in the cloud, but mostly locally, unless you want to expose it to the outside, and they can directly sync the latest events from a blockchain. And they are mostly used for when you want to build an application that needs really up-to-date data, such as running analytics or something. And in regards to requirements, that's one thing we touched upon earlier during the blockchain update in general. We are currently rewriting some parts of the node clients and then conducting another set of performance tests so we can really pinpoint the minimal level of requirements. But if you visit our docs currently, there is also already some broad overviews on the general specs you would need to fulfill if you run your node either locally or in the cloud through known public hosting providers. All right, then we go on with the next category of questions, which is questions related to the token. And the first one is, can we expect the Oni token to be also available on Ethereum and Binance Smart Chain after the mainnet is launched? It's a good question, and we are currently investigating the different possibilities we have there. And one thing is that we are especially looking into is allowing our user base to have access to a wrapped version of the token on Binance Smart Chain and especially Ethereum. And there is nothing official we can announce there, because to facilitate that, we do want the availability of a trusted third party that provides a bridging service. And as all of us know, bridges are often the most sensible entry point to any blockchain network, and often the most sensible point in terms of attacks. So we are really decisive when it comes to selecting bridging partners. But this is definitely something that we're looking forward to doing. And the Binance Smart Chain will most likely be easier, because through Bitmart, for example, there will be a natural bridge to a centralized exchange, and Ethereum might come later after the mainnet is launched. And the next question is, have you decided how the migration to the native chain will happen, and if holding on Bitmart, will this happen automatically? Bitmart, as mentioned earlier, will definitely support our migration to the mainnet. And regarding the migration to the native chain, we have our plans, but we still, before releasing all the information on that, and that will be, you can basically imagine, it will be a portal hosted on a separate web app, and a series of blog posts that will guide you through the migration for you. It will not much to do other than sending a transaction, for example, and then will receive the same amount on your respective wallet. You held it on the Binance Smart Chain currently, but the exact workings and details will be released after we've been done the current adjustments to the node client and onboarded validators, because then we can be confident on the move to migrate to our native network. And then the last question regarding the token is, will there be a further breakdown of the tokenomics? And I can answer this with a short yes, as we also, as previously mentioned, we are currently working hard on a detailed update regarding all the dynamics and the mechanics flowing into the Oni token economic system. And that will also include a detailed breakdown of the tokenomics, the emissions, and the general mathematical workings behind the whole system we have designed.
All right, perfect, Lucas. I answered his questions already in the earlier stage, so now back to the general questions. And yeah, first question is, hi, can any of the team clarify why there was no token involved in their VC baking? So that's pretty easy. For first, we didn't have any VC round yet, either including equity or tokens. The business angels and the L bank, the bank from the state we have at the moment, are convertible loan, which will be converted or can be converted in the essence of a real, as in equity funding round. So that's why we don't have any VC in the baking and no token yet. So currently, Onino is still 100% in the hand of Onino, being Kai, Lucas, and I. And we will very likely do a venture capital round, including equity, in the future to boost the growth, just as it's normal for startups. And tokens are an option there, but it will be very much aligned with the tokenomics that Lucas just talked about. So we have dedicated specific amounts for everything. And this is an option which we could take. So token is an option if we find a VC, an investor, a fund that is very interested in tokens. That's something we can talk about, but that will always come with vesting and contracts and everything. And we're focusing regarding the bigger company funding that will come now at some point. It will be mostly focused on equity if we do that. So hope that answers the question. Second question is, how much progress do you reckon will be achieved in a year from now? So I'll just drop a couple of points. So mainnet will be launched. There will be many more projects onboarded in the blockchain. The Onino subchain framework will be launched. There will be more Onino Launchpad projects. There will be many more Onino Cloud Platform features and paid plans. And there will be technical papers and potentially even peer-reviewed papers. And I think those are the main things. I'm not sure if I didn't miss anything, but I think those are the ones that came into my head. So those will be the things that will be achieved in a year from now. Hiring is also a thing. And yeah, I think it's going to be a very exciting year for Onino, as every year has been and as every year will be. And the next question is, do you have any more projects that will be building on the Onino chain? So far, just Kadaiko only. And yes, we have a couple more projects besides Kadaiko. Some are announced, some aren't ready to be announced yet. Unfortunately, that's how the space works often. When you work with Web2 projects, there's NDAs, there's long projects, and long times from idea to contract to how does it get done to how does it get released and everything. So those are things that take time, but Kadaiko is not the only on the Onino chain, and there will be more, and we will announce them once we can announce them. And there's already been an extensive interest also from many projects to build on the Onino mainnet at launch. And we have also started the Onino grant program, where we have had a couple of submissions, interesting ones, and we're screening them as they come in. And this is also a very good sign for us. And the last one is, have a great time in Texas. Don't ride any bulls whilst you're there, as we need our star player on their A game. Thank you very much. We'll do our best to enjoy it and to not get killed by a bull or shot or kidnapped or whatever may happen. Yeah, we'll be cautious. We won't do any stupid things. And we'll do our best to enjoy it. If you have any suggestions what we should or shouldn't do, feel free to hit us up if you've been there. We'll be visiting Austin, Dallas, and Houston. And yeah, if you are there, or if you know anyone there, or if you know anything to do there, we're happy to hear any of your tips. And so that has been it for the question part, for the predefined questions. Now let's jump into the live questions. I haven't screened the chat yet, so I'll start reading through it and see if we have anything interesting here. So I see T-Shifty knows the dude that runs the ETH Denver. Maybe next year. Sounds interesting. So first question from Michael Brown is, or Michael Brown, how will the node native staking platform in the Onino mainnet look? Are you still in time with the mainnet launch? I will shoot that to you, Lucas, if that's okay.
Yes. First, let's cover the node native staking platform. And therefore, we actually want to provide a dedicated web platform where it will be as easy as possible to not only at the start register for being a validator, but also in the next step, which will come afterwards and not initially with the launch of the mainnet, is the delegation of stake to different validating pools and allow people to stake directly through that platform. This will be no rocket science, and we will not reinvent the wheel there, because there are many platforms out there that already do exactly that for different ecosystems, and it will be very much aligned with what they are doing there. And then regarding the mainnet launch, we have our timeline, and as we've mentioned already in the last community update, the main bottleneck regarding that timeline is the auditing process of the whole protocol. You can imagine it is thousands and thousands of lines of codes, and especially the ones associated with the consensus algorithms have to be audited. And we are, as mentioned, we are currently performing some initial changes after some tests to the current node client software, and these changes will have to go through audit too, which itself complicates the things. And it is, as always, when a third party involved, it often is a tedious process. But we are still on a good trajectory to release the mainnet. But also, please understand that as we are dependent on a third-party audit, we currently can't give an exact date for the release of the mainnet, and we currently just can't guarantee you something for example, yes, it will come in late Q1. As once we've implemented these changes, we have to go back to the auditor, and basically when they will provide us a date when the audit is finished, then we can get back to you and provide you with the exact launch date. And I see the next question from T Shifty is directly again best for me, I guess, and it is, what are the incentives to running your own validator node? So on the one hand, the incentive always is that you get a share directly from all transactions generated on the network, all the transaction fees, and also there will be a fixed rate that will be issued to validators. That is basically, at the end of the day, you can imagine it's always a calculation. Is it economically viable to run a validating node on a network? Because there are costs for hosting something, and then, or if you're hosting it yourself, there are costs involved that basically come down to equipment and electricity costs. And there's a dedicated pool of tokens in the tokenomics that will be distributed to validators to incentivize running your own validator node. Speaking of validators, the next question from Michael Brown directly ties into the same topic, and it is, what will be the minimum requirement for a validator node, and will it be 35,000 only token? Yes, that is the minimal requirement we've set for now for the launch of the mainnet. That being said, this requirement can change in the future, especially when we see that there are big fluctuations in the value of the stake that is being required, or if we see that there are just many more people that are interested in hosting a node. It's always a trade-off when you define the required stake, because it is an incentive to not work against the protocol when you put up something for stake. So it cannot be too minimal, but at the same time, it shouldn't be too high. And the 35,000 is the initial threshold we have set. And another question from Budini is there any way to become a testing validator right now? Not at the current point in time, but as we are actively working on the last few changes, until we onboard public validators to the test network, you will be able to do that once we release the node client publicly to GitHub and allow you to onboard directly to the testnet, which will be followed by a big announcement and will also be followed by the individual documentation regarding how to basically connect your node to the network. All right, there's another question. When I see it correctly, it's the next in line. And that is from Will Mellor. On the one hand, it is what will the locking period for a node be? Technically, the locking period is directly related to the epoch system we've implemented in the protocol. Non-technically speaking, you will be looking at the different locking periods you can choose yourself. There's a minimal locking period, which will be roughly towards 1 month. Again, that is more technically explained when we go into the whole epoch system, so the measurement of time in the protocol. And you will be able to choose to lock up for extended periods of months, up to 12 months. And depending on the length of the period, you will be putting up your tokens as a stake for operating your node, or in the future delegating it. It will also adjust the amount of share you will get from the reward pool for operating it and locking it up for extended period. And then the second question, I'm not sure the exact direction you want to take or the exact meaning behind it. So Will, if you could specify that, I will get back to answering it as swiftly as I can. Then there's another question from Michael Brown. It's more a maybe you actually want to meet us. So what do I have to do if I want to meet you in St. Gallen? One obvious fact would be first getting there, and then try Googling the summit. I'm actually not too sure. Maybe Alex can give some insight on that, if there are public tickets available as of now.
Yeah, as far as I know, there are public tickets. And as we'll be there for 2 days, 21st and 22nd, we will not spend the whole time at the event. So even if you can't make it to the event, we can try to meet outside of the event. We won't be able to meet like 50 people at 15 different venues. But if you're there, and we can meet anywhere near the venue if you aren't at the event itself, yeah, then just shoot us a DM and we can make it happen.
Yes, and then there's one, the last question I see currently. In quick words, what makes Onino unique more than competitors, or unique compared to other competitors? So in terms of describing our uniqueness in the whole blockchain space, there are 2 things we have to differentiate between. On the one hand, it's a technical thing, and the other hand is how we make our technology available to the public. On the technical thing, we are building on a DRG-based protocol, which in itself allows better performance than other more traditional competitors we see in the space. And also what we are working on in for our private subchain framework will be transformative, especially for companies, but this is all still work in progress in terms of facilitating private subchains through known technologies such as zero knowledge proof involved. And the other main thing, what we see as more important actually, because we've seen it with multiple different standards for networks and technology in general, it's not always the best technology that wins, it's the one that finds the best rate of adoption that wins. Just look why HTTP has basically prevailed when there might be, from a technological standpoint, better standards out there for network communication, is the way we make blockchain accessible. Currently nowadays, for building blockchain applications, it takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of manpower and also a lot of funds to implement blockchains and also implement it in traditional systems. That's why you see, for example, in finance, the big players are jumping on blockchain technology. But what gets left behind is the vast amount of smaller businesses, which make up more than 80% of companies worldwide, because they do not have the resources to access that technology. And this is what we set out to change by making blockchain technology widely accessible. That goes hand in hand with how we want to enable companies to deploy their custom chains on our protocol within minutes in the future, and also goes hand in hand with everything we do with the Onino cloud platform to give developers one central platform, not central in the term of decentralized and centralized, but a central platform in the terms of everything combined in one place that allows them to really fast go from I have an idea and I've implemented it on the blockchain, and then I can create much more value than I have before for my business. And that is what will make Onino unique in the future in terms of how blockchain can be used in enterprises nowadays. Because it does not have to be tedious, does not have to be costly. It most of all will be secure and easy to use.
So Niels has a question. Anything you can share from the event in Stuttgart earlier last month? Any great partnerships and connections been made? Yes, there have been made. So I think I'm thinking about 4 that are coming just to my head. 2 are from the Web2 space, which are multiplicators. They are companies that have many contacts with other companies that were very interested in working with us to spread the technology we have. And the 2 others are potential projects for the Onino Launchpad or tokenized fundraising. Again, no names to be named here, as also the Onino Launchpad projects are very early on. Most of them are in their idea phase. But yeah, great and great returns. Talking in front of 300-400 people, and many hearing about what Onino is, having great ideas, and getting in touch with us later on at the event or later via socials or email. So those events are always really impressively helpful for many more people and eyes and ears to hear and see about Onino. So what are some use cases for small businesses to use Onino, like a burger joint? What is a burger joint? Am I missing something, Kai Lucas?
Yeah, I also quickly
burger restaurants, I guess.
So my arm has a joint. Is a burger joint like a burger that can open and close? I'm thinking.
No, I
that is what
believe
we're
like
gonna have when we return from USA.
yeah,
Yeah,
multiple
good question,
burgers.
actually. Yeah, not quite 100% sure if the burger chain is like the perfect use case example, but yeah, basically also that poses one. So yeah, just imagine you're like a burger joint that has like, for example, 100 stores. That's the correct word, yeah. The joint is still confusing me. Like imagine you have a burger joint that has like 100 different shops, and then you probably will have a quite complex supply chain from multiple suppliers. For example, you have different farmers. You have the ones for your wheat, for your buns, for the burger patties, for the tomatoes, for the salad, whatever. And this supply chain maybe takes the whole stuff from the farmers and from the raw materials through different distribution centers, where the stuff is like repackaged or even further processed and then brought to your single burger restaurants one by one. That is quite complex. And you may, or the probability is very high that you won't always have the full transparency and have the full overview in such a supply chain. So just imagine that something, like some kind of the supply to get maybe the tomatoes or the salad is for whatever reason like poisoned. I mean, it's like happens quite a lot. There's some contamination somewhere along the supply chain. And yeah, with blockchain, you can then easily and transparently and especially quickly track and trace where exactly the contaminated goods are now. And can then even prevent them to get to your customer before it's too late, so to say. There's actually like studies and case studies for exactly that topic, like increasing transparency and basically supply chain tracking of contaminated goods with blockchain. I'll send you out the study if I find it later on. That's just one example.
Yeah, like the other, it might be one obvious example is that one day we will live in a future, at least I'm convinced by it, that where everyone will have their own wallet and payments can be directly facilitated through a blockchain. And the big thing that comes with it is, I don't know if the problem is as big in the USA, for example, where I believe the burger joints come from, not too sure, is general accounting. So basically logging every single transfer of money in and out that happens within a business. And blockchain is just a natural accounting logbook, if you want to say so. So one day, it might not be in 5 years, might not be in 10 years, but it will be in the future when blockchain has found widely accepted adoption. Every business will have their accounting on chain, and every business will have their financial assets and transfers on chain, as everyone will be transferring money through a blockchain, as at least the digital representation, if they do not want to pay with cash, as it's just naturally more secure, faster, and also less expensive.
So Michael Braun has another question. I want to start up a third NFT project on Polygon chain. Can Onigraph help me with the development of smart contract and so on, or do I have to launch it onto the Onino chain? I would say launch it on the Onino chain. But that's an interesting thing. So on one hand, of course, we can help with that on a project basis. We also have the Onino cloud platform, which for a start, for example, if you have a look at it, is compatible with many EVM compatible testnets, and in the end is meant to make blockchain development easier, not specifically Onino development. Of course, it will work best with Onino, but we will be supporting other chains. We'll have a look at how exactly they will be supported. We haven't decided on that yet, but in theory, it's open. There's many possibilities. So if it's a specific inquiry, feel free to just hit us up and let's talk about it. Kai Lucas, not sure if you have anything to add. That's more your domain.
Actually, even currently, you can deploy any NFT collection you would like, except for the artistic part behind an NFT collection. You can deploy the technicalities through your Onino platform within 2 minutes, even today. Then there is another question. There's a lot of other questions, not questions, messages going into the chat, but one question from Butini. Are there any plans for stable coins on Onino? Well, plans, yes, but one thing is for sure that Onino itself will never launch a stablecoin because it's just not nature of the business what Onino is doing. So the stablecoins would have to come from other third parties, and there are quite some initiatives we are thinking about in regards to that, and also some partnerships we are eager to work on. But as stablecoins is a really complicated topic, especially when it comes to regulation, and the regulation under MiCA and digital assets regulation in general. This is a really complicated topic, which we are open to go into more detail once we have found the right partners to facilitate stablecoins on the Onino network.
I see there's another one from Michael. Can Onino help me starting up a decentralized website with a MetaMask implementation, for example, too? Not quite sure if I understood what a decentralized website with a MetaMask implementation. You basically mean a website where you can connect your MetaMask wallet to interact with it. I mean, following up on your NFT proposal, I think a website where you can sell your NFTs and users can connect their MetaMask to buy them, I suppose. If it's that what you mean, then yes. And that's what the AI integration assistant is for, like the fourth AI assistant we got. You could just simply chat with that assistant, show him the smart contract, so to say, of your NFT collection, and ask him how you could help you or embed that into your website so that users can connect their wallet. Now, Michael answered, a website on the blockchain, not depending to any regulations of the country. That is going to be hard from a technical perspective. I think I've seen that there are some decentralized hosting providers. So yeah, that's basically not really a thing of technology, but rather like where you host your website, and that probably will be quite hard on the blockchain. But great idea. Oktoberfest Onino party is just proposed in the chat. I think that's actually an amazing idea. We should aim for that. Bring a proper Oktoberfest to Karlsruhe.
There's another question from Candy Cheeses, and I believe we are soon nearing the close of the questionnaire round. So I believe NCDT is Nuco Cloud. We're actually in contact with the team, but there's not much else I can share, but we do not know them personally.
All right. Reicht mir, says Candy Jesus. Perfect. I'd say this marks the end. It's not me, it's you, it's him. It's not me, it's you. Haha. No, but yeah, thank you very much for joining. It's been great having you. Thank you very much for all the live listeners. Thank you very much for the ones that are listening to the recording. And I would say, let's have a great month and talk to you next month.
See you next month,
Have a
everyone.
good evening. Bye-bye.